Welcome to Spinal Moves, a Canadian series about activity-based therapy, an intervention used to improve recovery for people with spinal cord injury. I am your host, Hope Jervis Rademeyer. In our third episode, I will speak with 3 different clinicians from across the country. One works in acute care, the second works in rehabilitation, and the third works in community care. Our first guest is John Cobb. John graduated from the University of British Columbia School of Occupational Therapy in 1993. As a student, it was on the acute spinal cord injury unit that he first recognized that he wanted to devote his time and skills to this unique population. 28 years later, John is still with the acute spine unit, and he is the senior occupational therapist. He has participated in clinical work, teaching, and SCI-based research and program development projects. John says, I enjoy the variety of my work activities. As an occupational therapist, you must continuously problem solve the challenges that patients face and limit their ability to perform everyday activities. Working with people with new spinal cord injuries really puts that to the test. Helping patients learn to feed themselves, drive a power wheelchair, write their name, become more independent is very rewarding. When he's not at work, John enjoys golfing, cooking, and international travel, but mostly enjoys having fun with family and friends. Welcome, John, to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So, John, as we learned from your bio, you're an occupational therapist working in acute care. So how did you first learn about ABT?
Well, I guess I've known about components of the ABT and approaches that were ABT-like for several years, but really it wasn't until you and the working group put together this process that I learned about the particular style of treatment that included a philosophy, certain approaches, protocols, and outcomes. So I knew bits and pieces here and there, but not really ABT as a complete concept.
Interesting. Yeah, and there are quite a few people who learn the pieces and then finally put it together. So you work at Vancouver General Hospital, which is a little bit unique because you have an acute care unit dedicated to treating individuals who have spinal cord injury or disease only. So how do you think this affects potential delivery of ABT compared to a mixed center?
I think that, well, I guess I have two parts to that. One is, in a way, we do have a mixed population in that we have new spinal cord injured patients who we are preparing to go to rehabilitation. And then we have spinal patients who come in for elective corrective surgeries who don't have neurodeficits, and they go home quite quickly. And so I think the challenge there is the elective patients discharge very quickly, and to meet standard of care, you must complete certain activities on time. So I think the challenge really is carving out the time to provide ABT services to the spinal cord injured population. So any unit that is mixed, it probably would have a similar challenge. But I think that one of the benefits that we have is that we, in effect, do one thing, and that's fun. And so by having a very strong spine care, spine rehabilitation culture, we might be able to adopt ABT a little more easily than a unit that was truly mixed and very separate in its activities.
So in acute care, it can be really hectic. And I know you have a list of priorities, and understandably, the highest priorities are related to safety of the patient, and they can really mean life or death. So how do you think that we could incorporate ABT onto that list?
I think that probably you would have to think of ABT in a very similar fashion. So that is, what are the most critical parts that really need to be done? Because priorities do compete, that's for certain. So, in order for ABT to win out sometimes and to be on the top of the list, I think the importance for it would need to be clear. In the beginning time, thinking about patient tolerance to activity, passive range of motion, and then active assisted range when they can participate, and then going down the chain would be probably the best match. So I think that simple things like maintaining joint range of motion is something we already do. It could be done with the understanding that you are priming the pump, so to speak, for ABT down the road. So I think that would be the most important thing. The ABT components need to compete with the other acute care components and would need to be seen as such.
So you answered a little bit of this in that question, but how do you think we can incorporate ABT into acute care? So you mentioned priming the pump, but is it also giving information? Is it completing functional movements and adding intensity later? or is it something else?
I think all of those are good ideas and possible to do in acute care. I think it's often true that in the beginning time, patients can listen and learn. And so you can speak to them about ABT and explain to them the rationale and what's coming for them. You can begin with the simple things like the range of motion activities. They're very beginning of physical participation. We're preparing them to go to rehabilitation. And so I think all of those things could be done. And then you would be adding the intensity later in rehabilitation when they have much more tolerance to being not just out of bed, because on our unit, if you can sit up all day long, that's a good day in acute care. So once they've got much more tolerance to participate in the repetitive intensity of ABT, then that would be a good match for rehabilitation.
I know that you can't have volunteers working physically alongside patients in acute care for many reasons. Could they possibly fill some sort of ABT role? And if so, what would that role be?
So that's true. For volunteers, sort of formal volunteers from the hospital, there may be restrictions and physical hands-on types of activities. Also, they change quite a bit because they are volunteers and they come when they can. So I would suggest that families as volunteers could actually be very helpful. And so we currently get family to help all the time, and they want to help. They want a job. They want to contribute to the care of their family member. And so they can be a great resource. And I think that when it comes to the more simple initial phases like range of motion exercises, that they would be able to do that sort of thing. The nice thing about families is that they tend to be available more often, more regularly, so that you can provide them with teaching, you can monitor them and even progress them, so to speak. So I would probably be looking to incorporate families as much as possible. And I think that would dovetail nicely into the whole treatment program.
Mm-hmm. So acute therapists, I admire you. You do so much and you have so many concerns to worry about. And as I said before, acute care can really be life or death. So how can we as a Canadian national ABT community filled with therapists, researchers, people living with spinal cord injury, etc., support our acute care therapists so that we can successfully and appropriately deliver ABT to our patients?
I think probably the most helpful thing would be to have designated champions, so to speak, people who can provide training and support in a ready-to-go package. You would want new therapists or therapists that are new to ABT to be up and running fairly quickly, effectively. And because acute care therapists have a lot of competing priorities, they are very busy. So it can be difficult to stop, learn something new, integrate it into practice, make sure all the parts are there, having the physical space, having the equipment, having the documentation even. So I think to bridge the difference between the idea of ABT and actually doing it, I think acute care therapists just need tangible and practical assistance to be able to learn and integrate this treatment into their practice.
Great. Well, thank you so much for allowing me to interview you today, John, and best of luck in your acute care practice.
Thank you very much. It was nice to talk.
Our next guest is Shane McCullum. Shane McCullum is currently the Clinical Trials Manager at the Stan Cassidy Center for Rehabilitation in Fredericton, New Brunswick. He has worked with patients with neurological conditions for 11 years, beginning as a clinician, physiotherapist, and as a researcher for the past 9 years. Shane has been a coordinator for the Rick Hansen SCI Registry at SCCR since 2011 and has been a part of the Standing and Walking Measures Working Group since its formation. As it pertains to ABT, Shane participated in the Canadian ABT Summit in March 2018 and has been involved in several national working groups since that, including the ABT Inventory and Dissemination Groups, and most recently has joined the steering committee for the Canadian ABT Community of Practice. He is level 2 trained to use the ExoBionics exoskeleton and has experience using many FES devices. Shane is also the proud father of 2 little boys, Duncan, age 2, and Alex, 4 months. And before kids, he was a pretty good golfer. Welcome, Shane, to our show.
Thank you.
So, Shane, you're very passionate about ABT, obviously from your bio, and you were part of the AB Summit. You've been part of several of those national ABT groups. So what makes you so excited about ABT for spinal rehabilitation?
I think just seeing the evidence that is coming out and knowing the outcomes and the function that can be improved by using ABT, whether it's through technology or just different movements. And then being part of the summit and the different groups, it's been a benefit to me in terms of networking and being able to talk through things and talking to other clinicians across Canada who have similar equipment and similar type of patients, and figuring out how it can best be used across the continuum from inpatient stay through to community and outpatient stay.
Yeah, it's definitely a very passionate group. Mm-hmm. So inpatient and outpatient rehabilitation is the bridge between acute care and community services. Where do you see your role with regard to ABT?
My role is a little bit different in that I don't necessarily see patients on a day-to-day basis, but I do help with, I'm one of the 3 people at our center that are trained to use the EXO, and I've been through all the training for all the FES equipment, so I help troubleshoot with some of that. So I get to work with both inpatients and outpatients, depending on when a clinician sees somebody who they think would benefit from using the technology. So I definitely get to see some people who are very early after their injury, more in the subacute phase, and I see some people who are several years post-injury on an outpatient and want to trial some equipment to try and have improve on a functional goal. So I get to kind of do a little bit of both, which is nice in that way.
So are all of the patients offered ABT? And if not, how do you decide who might be ready for ABT and who isn't? I know you talked about a large spectrum there, but along that spectrum, how do you decide?
I like to think that everybody here is offered ABT. In terms of how much ABT or what that pertains to, it varies. I think in order to be successful, you really need somebody who is motivated and willing to put in the time, because it is more intensive what you're trying to accomplish. So I think you need people who are willing and really see the benefit and want to. Sometimes early after an injury, people aren't quite ready to do that yet. So finding the right time, and then depending on comorbidities, whether they have underlying health conditions or injuries that came along with their spinal injury, it may not be possible from the get-go when they're an inpatient, but we definitely try and offer it at some point. And whether that's during inpatients or outpatients or in the community, trying to bring people back sometimes for kind of a tune-up or to trial some equipment to see if there's a benefit.
So we know that every patient is offered physio and occupational therapy, and there was a time when those therapies weren't actually in the hospital. Do you think that ABT will eventually become a typical part of that therapy?
Once again, I like to think so. I think I'm an optimist, obviously. I think just looking back when I started 11 years ago, it's used a lot more. And I think that there's definitely potential. Even when I was in physio school in 2007 to 2009, it wasn't really a big part of our curriculum. So I think if there's a way to integrate that now that there's more evidence into the curriculum and get clinicians, not just physios, but other clinicians involved from the get-go in training, that I think that will definitely be beneficial. And I think it would help to advocate for equipment and for training and for education for staff, and obviously for length of stay potentially being a bit longer to work on certain goals before people return, or to advocate for more community centers that can specialize in ABT as well.
Mm-hmm. So Stan Cassidy Center in New Brunswick is a unique center because often research studies embed research in clinical practice. Have you tried to do this with ABT, and what were the outcomes?
We have done this. We've had a few, some of our equipment, like our EXO, our Excite FES stimulator, have been, and our FES rower as well, have been purchased through research grants or at least partially through research funds. So we do try and use it and collect outcomes. And that's just so that we know whether it's making an improvement too. We don't want to be doing something that spending hours on something that's not necessarily making an improvement. So we definitely try and keep outcomes, whether that's case studies or in larger studies. We have had a couple of studies using FES cycle for spasticity, using the EXO and trying to calculate spasticity, and that was cut short a little bit because of the pandemic. But we definitely do try, and not necessarily always in formal research having a protocol at the start, but we try and collect outcomes on a certain basis so that we're able to look back sometimes and say, okay, did this really help? Which once again, during inpatients, it can be difficult because it's not the only therapy that they're getting, but at least we can compare it a little bit and see, okay, we would have expected this person to be at this level and they've surpassed that. So maybe we can accumulate that to the whatever ABT we were using.
Mm-hmm. So Do you think that combining research and clinical practice for ABT in a rehabilitation setting is the way of the future, or maybe a step onwards towards the future?
I think so. Once again, like I just mentioned, having the outcomes to show that it was beneficial, how it was beneficial, and that can obviously help to advocate once again for more equipment, for more training, and that type of thing. So I think having research and combining it, being from a smaller province, it's hard for us sometimes to get enough numbers to put out a big research study. But I think combining with sites across Canada who have similar type of equipment and similar type of personnel would be beneficial as well. But I really do think that embedding research in clinical practice is beneficial.
Of course, and especially with that larger network that you mentioned. Mm-hmm. So admittedly, when I was looking at interviewing you, I watched one of the educational series videos produced by your center, and it was really great. So I did learn a lot about actually spinal cord injury and technology and what you do. And there are a lot of different ways to spread the word about ABT. So what do you think might be the most effective?
I think looking at curriculums for schools is a good way for clinicians. Obviously, a lot of clinicians are already past that stage. So webinars are definitely beneficial as well. We've done a couple of webinars, I think, as the community of practice, linking clinicians together, which I know that Praxis has done and tried to come up with a clinician network. The community of practice now for ABT is trying to do that as well. Conferences and articles dissemination that way is nice, but it doesn't hit as many people. It just hits typically the ones that go there or that go out of their way to read up on it. So I think webinars, 1 to 2 hour webinars that really have a better chance of hitting home and being watched by people. So that's one that I think is really beneficial. Like I said, having a network of clinicians that you can kind of discuss and brainstorm with is beneficial as well.
Yeah. Well, Shane, I'd like to thank you for coming onto the podcast today. And good best of luck in all of your research and future adventures.
Thank you very much.
Our final guest today is Sandy Marshall. Sandy Marshall is the manager at First Steps Wellness Center in Regina, Saskatchewan. She obtained her Bachelor of Kinesiology from the University of Regina, and after working in healthcare for 5 years, she joined the First Steps team in 2013 as an exercise therapist. Initially working mainly with adults with spinal cord injury, Sandy led the expansion of First Steps to include a children's neurorehabilitation ABT program. Over the past 3 years, the children's program has become the most comprehensive in Canada and has proven to be a passion for Sandy. Hi, Sandy, and welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, Sandy, can you tell me a bit about where you work at First Steps in Regina?
For sure. So First Steps is a community-based neurorehabilitation center. We specialize in activity-based therapy to help improve motor function and movement below the level of injury or for someone who suffered a neurological condition. We opened 10 years ago and have been serving the community of Regina and all over Canada started primarily as a spinal cord injury rehabilitation center, and then quickly expanded to other conditions such as strokes, brain injuries, and multiple sclerosis.
Great. That sounds like a really interesting center that fills a lot of need. So do you see your role as an exercise therapist, or do you see kinesiologists filling this role to provide specialized community centers like First Steps, or do you see their role in other situations as well?
Yeah, I think kind of in a variety of situations, definitely filling that community-centered role. But also, I feel like if we want activity-based therapy to really be popular and important in the inpatient and acute care setting, we're going to really need to rely on kinesiologists to help fill that role. It really leaves physiotherapists and occupational therapists the chance to continue doing what they're doing already in their tight timelines of helping people learn how to transfer, toileting, and just really getting ready to go home. But then having the kinesiologist or exercise therapist available to help the client or patient learn about ABT, get started in ABT, and really begin a lifelong journey of ABT followed through the entire continuum.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there that we really need to expand our network and include a lot more healthcare practitioners throughout the continuum there. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think cost effective and time effective. Our PTs and OTs are just so busy as it is, and they just need that extra support to be able to provide ABT, it's really a lifelong thing for those who have had a spinal cord injury or brain injury, and it just needs to be the starting framework right from acute care setting.
Yeah, so you talked about ABT as a lifelong therapy, which it is, but it's also intense, and it often involves, it always involves many repetitions. So at First Steps, how do you plan a session so that you can achieve this intensity needed for ABT? And is it even possible?
Yeah, I think it is possible. Our clients that are here at First Steps for ABT, they are here 2 to 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Plus, a lot of them are doing some stuff on their own. But I think the key to us is using a variety of ways to hit those repetitions. So not just, using one thing over and over. Quadriplegic's not just going to try to do a bicep curl over and over and over. Yes, we're going to do a lot of that hands-on work with the therapist, but we also like to use other modalities and include pneumatic resistance, functional electrical stimulation, something as simple as gait training. It could take place above ground. It could be over a treadmill with a harness system. It could be on a spin bike. Just really using a variety of ways and also combining exercises. So something like a developmental movement pattern of being on your elbows and knees or hands and knees. You're not just working on one thing at a time. You're able to do a combination of many different needs and get a ton of different repetitions and time management.
Okay, so I just have a curious question about that. So if someone has to come so often for so much time and for so many years, I know this might be exclusive to Saskatchewan, but is there some sort of funding, or is it private, or how does that work?
Yeah, some of them, it's kind of a variety. With our clients on the adult side, a lot of them have a really good network by the time they end up maybe having an injury or that kind of thing. And they'll often hold their own fundraisers to pay for stuff like that because it is very costly for them. And then we also have a lot of insurance companies that have come on board and covered anywhere from 3 months to a year or two of therapy once they realize, especially the gains that the people are making in their functional recovery. If you can make those functional gains earlier on, then the insurance companies are going to have to pay less in the long run. So they jump on board.
That's really great to hear that insurance companies are starting to help fund that.
Yeah, it's coming. It's been a long time in the making, but yeah, we've definitely had a lot of success with that. And we're continuing to work on some of the ones that haven't been so quick to jump on board.
Great. So you were instrumental in expanding First Steps to include a children's neurorehabilitation ABT program. That's really something unique that I haven't heard of much. So can you tell us a little bit more about that children's program?
Yeah, I guess it was about 4 years ago. My executive director, he was out in a conference in Alberta and he was asked that question, well, do you work with children? And, on the way home thinking, why don't we work with children and what do we need to do to accomplish that? So we started looking into it a little bit more, and it's not as easy as just continuing the same methods that we were already using with children. So, we did some time, did some fundraising and got some grants to buy some specialized equipment and find the right training that we thought would really work for a children's program. So we did do that with the TheraSuit program as kind of a starting point. And then over the last couple of years, we've also continued to add a few other modalities and further training in reflex integration and functional electrical stimulation for children. So it's been a little bit of a process, but a couple of years ago, we finally were able to open our children's program, and it's been an amazing addition to First Steps. I don't know if it's just the joy that it brings having kids in the facility or the gains that you're able to see them make so quickly, but it's been a really great addition. one of the big setbacks that we did see was the cost for families. So going back to that again, a lot of children with cerebral palsy or conditions that they were born with, they aren't able to receive insurance or funding, and they haven't had that time to, create their own network that will be able to fund their therapy and that kind of stuff. So the latest thing that we dove into is opening up a grant program for children. So we have now a grant program that can cover up to half the cost of a children's monthly therapy bill. So that's been a really big help for continuing to grow the program and allowing parents to be able to afford children to come to our center.
Yeah, that's great. And that's great advice too, that, it's not unattainable and that there are different ways that might help you to cover almost the whole cost if you can manage to fundraise as well on top of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really costly to have a child with a disability and all their different needs, and just trying to help offset them for them a little bit, just to help their kids become as independent as we can.
Yeah. So just talking about kids and the exciting program there, can you tell our listeners one of your most inspiring stories about kids in ABT?
I guess probably one of the first clients we had, a little boy, when he first came in, he wasn't very interested in the world around him. And physically, he was at the point where he wasn't quite able to support holding his head up. He was 4 years old and spent a lot of his time laying because he wasn't able to support himself properly. And just being able to work with him and help gain that support and see the difference that it made in his journey and in his mom's journey. So something so simple as getting pictures that this little boy was out shopping with his mom and he was able to sit in the cart and hold on. So, it just made their interaction and their experience that much better. Or, she could come home with him and just put him on the floor and he could sit and just wait, and just kind of knowing where that's going to go for them in their life and the changes that something so little that we might take for granted could have on a family. So I think that, and combined with just not just physically seeing the changes that kids make at our program, but how interested they become in the environment around them. Some of them maybe were kind of in their own shell for a while, and after working with them, they make those physical changes, but being interested in the world around them, then they want to further explore and use those physical changes that they've created to continue their development at home and at school. So.
That's so great to hear, because we've already heard on the show a lot of stories about how ABT can affect adults, but it seems to really profoundly affect the kids that you work with.
Yeah, I think maybe even more so than adults. It can really change the life path for the entire family when the children are able to come and make those improvements or those gains early on. And it potentially, a family might not have to buy a power chair for their child, or they're going to be able to, sit and play with their brother and sister. And then it just continues to snowball from there. And yeah.
So that's so great. Well, I just want to thank you for coming in to talk to us today, Sandy, and best of luck at First Steps and with the kids program there.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks for listening. Our next show will feature Anita Kaiser, who you met in episode 2, speaking to 3 guests who spoke to clinicians across Canada about their views on ABT. Listen and subscribe to Spinal Moves on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or other popular platforms. You can also link to Spinal Moves to see information about our guests and episodes, or to get more information about ABT and the Canadian ABT Community of Practice at praxisinstitute.org. This series is brought to you by the Canadian ABT COP and sponsored by Praxis Spinal Cord Institute. Special thanks to the Saskatchewan Centre for Patient Outreach. Spinal Moves was created by Hope Jervis Rademeyer, produced by Hope Jervis Rademeyer, Praxis Spinal Cord Institute, and Anita Kaiser. The information provided on Spinal Moves is of a general nature and cannot substitute for the advice of a medical or healthcare professional. The opinions expressed on the show are solely that of the host and individual contributors. None of the individual contributors, system operators, developers, sponsors of Spinal Moves, nor anyone else connected to Spinal Moves can take any responsibility for the results or consequences of any attempt to use or adopt any of the information presented through this podcast.